Welcome to episode 43 of the Tough Draw Talks podcast. I'm your host, Brad Hughes. Appreciate you being along for the ride. Today, we are coming to you from Choctaw Casinos and Resorts in Durant, Oklahoma during the Durant Pro Rodeo. They have provided us an amazing location to record these podcasts, and we couldn't be more grateful for their involvement. A world-class resort with 1,700 rooms, 7,400 slots, 100 table games, a new resort pool spanning 3 acres, and a huge entertainment venue that showcases some of the best musicians in the world. Choctaw is the place to be. Before we get started, we appreciate the hospitality of Choctaw, but would be remiss to not mention our presenting sponsor for this year, the Lane Frost brand. We appreciate everything Stetson and the Frost family has done for us here at Tough Draw in all of our ventures, including this podcast. Be sure and visit lanefrost.com for some amazing hats, shirts, and everything Lane Frost. Make sure and use our discount code TDT15 to save on your next order. Tilden Hooper is a 9-time NFL qualifier that has a new set of 2-month-old twins to keep up with, along with a 2-year-old, but loves every bit of his family time. He has the best hair in rodeo and calls Granbury, Texas home. Tilden, how are you doing, man?
Man, I'm doing great. It's great to be here, kind of out of the house for the weekend and playing like a rodeo cowboy.
Heck yeah, getting to play rodeo cowboy. We'll kind of dive into that in a minute, but we always like to start off with some icebreakers just to kind of get our lips loosened up a little bit and get to talking here. But so we're here at Choctaw, right? So we put a little spin on these questions, but you walk up to the bar at Choctaw. What's your drink order?
I'm gonna probably go with a Crown and water. Like I keep it pretty simple. I don't get too fancy. I will say down at the Salt and Stone, or I think that's what it's called.
Yeah.
A really good espresso martini.
There you go.
Fancy.
Heck yeah. If you're feeling fancy. All right. Pre-ride rituals, or do you have any superstitions?
No superstitions. I like to keep my pre-ride ritual the same. I'm gonna get there hour ahead of time. Going to get a good stretch in. I go through the same routine. I think it's really important to kind of build into my ride to go through the same routine. It just kind of helps me switch from traveling mode to riding mode, right? And I'm going to be pretty loose and cool, kind of BSing with everybody behind the chutes and just slowly warming up and getting ready to go do it.
Yeah, especially with your event being one of the first ones up usually. So obviously every rodeo kind of changes that up some now, but
yeah, it's weird though, like whenever I go somewhere and we're not first, right? When they start at the first section of bull riding, it throws your timing off. You hear the national anthem and you're like, I should be riding right now. Like these other guys are doing it.
Yeah. So, all right. So Choctaw just renovated some of their movie theaters. They've got couple beautiful movie theaters down there with the recliners and all that. If you have to pick one movie to put up on a big screen, what would it be?
Man, that's a tough one. I really like funny movies. I don't know. Like I love Talladega Nights. It's one that really sticks out in my mind. Yeah. I think it's super funny.
See that amazing racing action up on the screen?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a while since I've been to the movies, I guess.
Yeah, with all the little ones running around. Yeah. I'm sure, man.
Top Gun. Never mind. Top Gun Maverick. That was the last movie I saw in theaters. And
oh my gosh!
I went on a date with Tim O'Connell in Reno last summer, and it was amazing. We went to the IMAX, and it was cool.
That is cool. Yeah. When I went, so that's actually the first movie in a very long time that I saw more than once in the theater. Yeah. Just because it was like. It was that
cool.
good.
Yeah, it was cool. My wife watched it on like Paramount Plus or something the other day, and I was like, man, I hate that you had to watch it here. It's really good in theater. Yeah. Maybe they have it playing down there at the movie theater here.
For sure. So, all right. So I love asking this question because it always kind of just sets us off on our way. But what's the best compliment you've ever received?
It's not so much a verbal compliment, but man, when you ride one and like really get after a bad one, and you like it's touch and go every time whether you're going to hit the ground, and you get through something like that, and like you kind of like I feed off the crowd reaction, right? But like when you look back there and you see the guys that you compete against clapping and screaming and yelling, like you really know you did something. I always take that as a pretty big compliment.
Heck yeah, man. Well, I appreciate you jumping in with those questions with me, but we'll kind of dive off into some more stuff. So, all right. So you call Granbury, Texas home. Tell me a little bit about your background and how you got to Granbury, though.
Man, how I got to Granbury. I grew up in East Texas, Carthage, Texas. It's for a little town, big time high school football, high school baseball. Yep. Sports are real big there. A really big rodeo presence there for such a small town. Terry Williams is a 5-time PBR stock contractor of the year. He's from there. Norman Curry, one of the only guys to ride all 10 bulls at the NFRs from right there. Clayton Williams made the NFR, made the PBR finals, won lots of major bull ridings, and a lot of guys you may have not ever heard of yet. And so, I didn't grow up around it. I growing up in a small town like that, you go to the Cattlemen's Rodeo every spring, and you know what it is, and you've been around horses. But I'd probably ridden 4 or 5 horses, just saddle horses, before I got on a bucking horse, and it was just like I got, the PBR was getting real popular on TV. I was reading these Western books and just made some friends with Clayton Williams. Another friend of mine, Spence Barney, roped calves real well, and I just fell in love with everything of wanting to be a cowboy, right?
Yeah,
and,
absolutely, man.
I'll be honest, I wanted to ride bulls, and just somehow I talked my mom into letting me ride bareback horses instead, thinking I would eventually start riding bulls, and then I did, and I just didn't love it as much as bareback riding. Like it got a hold of me, and I never, I played all the sports growing up and just never, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed playing the game, seeing my friends, but I didn't put the work into those things that you have to be great at something. And it wasn't until bareback riding that something got a hold of me, and I really felt that passion towards something, started putting the work in, and that took me to pro rodeo at 18. I started competing full time. Spent my whole senior year. I was 18 my senior year in high school. Spent that whole year rodeoing on my permit and going just any rodeos I could around home, and just doing what I could. And
so there were plenty over in that direction,
right?
Sure,
and then and I branched out into Oklahoma, Arkansas, went up into Iowa, but just was really trying to learn to ride good and get myself out there and just experience it, and it was a blast. And then my rookie year was the following year in 2007, and I made it. I took off rodeo, and I don't think anyone that knew me really thought that I had much of a chance to do what I went and did, as far as winning rookie of the year, and got close to making the national finals, and thank God I didn't. Really, honestly, I probably wasn't ready to go out there and go for 10 rounds. But that around that time I started hanging around Stephenville area, just like kind of young cowboys do, and that got me kind of living out around there. And then I've slowly made my way to Granbury, I guess. I lived in Weatherford for a few years, lived in Fort Worth for a few years, and my wife and I lived in Fort Worth for the last 4 or 5 years, and we moved to Granbury about the same time last year, and man,
That's
we
awesome.
love it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool little town.
So you're in a really unique position here, because you're the first bareback rider I've ever had on.
Man, you're gonna have a hard time topping this.
You're actually the first bronc rider, period, bareback or saddle bronc or anything. So let's talk through that. My audience, I feel like, is predominantly probably a bull riding audience, but we are all about Western culture, and we are about rodeo, and we're fans of everything. But what are some of the you talked about that PBR was big, and you thought you wanted to be a bull rider and stuff. It kind of walk us through. Bareback is one of those things. I've always enjoyed watching it. Deb Greeno and all those guys. Yeah. I used to watch him when I was a kid, but it's like when you look at that, everyone thinks it's chaos, right? But like, talk us through a bareback ride. What is it? What is some of the equipment you use? Just kind of give us the 101 on what bareback riding is.
So, bareback riding is going to be similar to the bull riding in the fact that you're riding for 8 seconds. You're being scored. The animals being scored. They combine your score, from 0 to 100, whatever. A good ride in the bareback riding is going to be a 84, 85 point ride. A great ride is going to be your 88, 89s, 90s, low 90s. I think the highest marked ride's a 94 or 5, something like that, 94 and a half or 95. I don't know. Anyway, the equipment's different though, right? So in a bull rope, you take your wrap around your hand and it hangs onto you pretty tight. But for the most part, unless you come off away from your hand and it just gets twisted in there, a lot of times it's going to be a lot easier to get out. And like these bullfighters are going to run in there, they can pull your tail and your hand's going to come out. In a bareback rig, and the way we wedge it in there, like when you come off away from your hand, it's pretty much stop the horse or get stomped off, drug off. Like it's a little more of a commitment you take, I guess, before you leave the chute. And, just from the difference of, having a pretty, doing like I rode bulls in my senior year in high school, a little bit in college. And I mean, I might've been on 50 bulls. Right. And, never on anything super ranked, but to me, when I started riding bulls, I'd been riding bareback horses for a few years and I was struggling with it. Like it didn't come very easy to me. Like I wasn't comfortable being on a horse. Like I hadn't been on, I just didn't have any experience with it. And, so it was pretty like big learning curve, I guess. And then when I read like a horse just always it feels like it's going so fast, even, like even the really good ones, like it's just, they're moving away from you a little bit and they're bigger. Whereas a bull's always kind of coming back up underneath itself for the most part. And, so the difference to me when I first started riding bulls is it felt a lot slower because everything was like coming back up underneath me as far as a horse, like especially in high school rodeo at the time. Like you get on a horse at a high school rodeo, you're going to the other end for the most part.
You hang on for the run.
So like there was a period there where the bull riding like was just a little bit easier for me, right? And I was just like, man, this is really something. I'm going to do this, And then around that time, I started getting a lot better at the bareback riding. And just when it got down to it, a fun bareback ride and a fun bull ride, there was no comparison with them for me. Like the bull riding was cool or whatever, and like I said, I didn't do it at the level of like these Jeff Askew, Stetson Wright, these guys. Like I mean, not comparing myself to that at all, but like to me, the bull riding, you're along for the ride, and you're matching moves with the bull and everything, and the bareback riding is just a lot more physical, right? Like when they jump up, your feet fly out, you're spurring every jump. Like it's wild, but it's also when you're doing it right and you're in time with that horse, it's like it's slow motion almost too. Like, and I'm sure the bull riders will tell you the same thing about bull riding. When you're doing it right, it's easy, right? But there are moments where it's very chaotic and it's very physical. I mean, you're just not gonna make very many bareback rides where you don't take some licks yourself, and it's just I can't explain the difference there, but it's just it's a more rewarding feeling for me, I guess, when I'd make a good bull or a good bareback ride versus making a good bull ride.
Yeah, no, for sure.
That's kind of what got me. And I love horses. Like, I mean, I grew up around bucking bulls and had probably for a long time seen way more bulls buck than I had horses. But the horses just, are so much more intriguing to me. Like, they're just so smart. And bulls are too. Like, definitely not throwing any shade on that deal. But horses are like, I love horses, and they're just so intuitive, and just watching bucking horses and the whole process of it is something I just love.
That's cool, man. Thank you for breaking that down for our audience. But, you talked about winning Rookie of the Year, but then you've also been to the NFR 9 times throughout your career, and I know you're kind of an elder statesman at this point. I think that's fair to say.
No, I think it's pretty fair to say.
But, you've experienced a lot of success. Talk a little bit about just the progression of your career. You alluded to it's probably best you didn't make the NFR when you won Rookie of the Year that year, but like what has the rest of your career and the trajectory of it been like?
Man, it was just like several different chapters, right? When I first came around, I had this idea in my mind. I thought I wanted to be the greatest bareback rider ever, but I also wanted to be the wildest, baddest, like doing all the probably stuff you're not supposed to be doing, and doing all the partying and hanging out and doing all that. And And, you know, for the first few years of my career, I'd say I hit the nail pretty close on the head, and I did a pretty good job of those things. And, you know, but midway, you know, then you start to realize the difference between a guy that, you know, I've been so fortunate, like just the people God has put in my life and at the timing that it's happened, right? And so second year in, I start traveling with a guy named Jesse Davis. At that time, he'd made the finals a few times. I think he went on to make it, you know, 6, 7, 8 times. You know, a guy I really looked up to. I thought he was really old at the time, but he was really just my age now, which doesn't seem so old. But and Casey Field, right? And so I got to meet Casey's dad, who was a 5-time world champion. And I would say when I met Louis and some of the guys that Louis called friends that were world champions, it changed my perspective on what being a world champion was like. And then, you know, Casey started having success. He was winning world championships. And I just, like, it really opened my eyes to, you know, what it would take to win a world championship versus what it would take to go into the NFR, you know, 13th, 15th, whatever. And not that there's, you know, not to, you know, turn your nose up at any of that, but I realized that I kind of wanted something more, right? And so I started doing things differently, you know, as it goes, right? Like, I mean, if you're traveling with a guy that's winning, you know, 3 or 4 world championships in a row, you don't want to be the second best guy in that car. And so, you know, like, I really fed off that, and we both feed off each other, right? And so in 2011, I just had like my breakout, what I feel like was my breakout season. I'd made the finals a couple times, but just never had a lot of, like, I'd won around at the finals. Like, I mean, a lot of successful things had happened. I'd won a couple major rodeos, but I just, like, I wanted more, right? And that 2011 season started off, and I had a pretty good winter. And from San Antonio till Cheyenne that year, I was winning the world. And it was just like, once you experience that and feel that you're capable of it, it's just like,
get that taste.
The wheels came off then. Like, it was just like, I was ready to go. But then in that same token, there was still something missing, right? Like, I knew how to work at the riding side of it. I knew how to ride my spur board. I feel like my mental game was pretty strong at the time, you know, ahead of my years. And just the situation was good and things were going great. But I had been nursing some injuries the whole time. Like, I had been nursing a neck injury that at the time I just kind of figured, you know, riding bareback horses is supposed to probably hurt your neck a little bit. So, but then I started. The
whiplash alone.
Right, yeah. And then, so, I mean, I just toughed it out, right? And in the summer times, it would get kind of bad when we'd be getting on a bunch of horses. I'd get to where I'd start losing feeling in my free arm and some different things. And, you know, just, like, I just never said anything about it. Because I knew what the answer was going to be, and I didn't want to hear it, right? And so anyway, I was able to manage it through the seasons. And then in 2011, by Cheyenne, it was just like I couldn't even pick my arm up. It was just whipping around out there. Like, it just was bad, and it was hurting all the time. And so went in, Tanny Freeman sent me to his neck specialist there in Dallas, a guy named Dossett, I think is his name. And anyway, he just was like, you know, basically sit out till the NFR. You know, you've got enough money, to make the NFR times what's gonna take care of this. And I think he recommended some physical therapy at, like, this place where your grandma would go. And so like, I did that. Like, I was doing everything. You know, one thing about me, like, is before that moment, I didn't have any idea of what to be doing different. And but once I'm told, like, I'll go all in on it. And so I did everything they told me to do. Went to the NFR that year, and by the 3rd, 4th round, it was waxed again, you know. And so at that time, though, I met a guy in the locker room there that was working with the Justin Sports Medicine team at the time. His name's Sean Scott. He was a chiropractor, and just a really intelligent guy. And he just kind of came up to me that week and was like, "Hey, I think I could help you out with your problem. You know, I kind of see what's going on." And so we got through the week, and then he was like, "Man, if you want to come down to my office and, you know, kind of, I would help you out if you would need some help," right? And so I wonder now if he regrets that, because I was like 2 weeks later, I was at his office, and I leave. I still haven't left, probably. And Sean's became one of my very best friends, and he's helped me so much. And we started working together, and my neck was feeling pretty good. And then by the end of 2012, it was just to the point where I had to have surgery on it. And like, the guy in Fort Worth wanted to fuse 2 levels, which would have totally ended my career. And so Sean put me on a guy down in Austin. Anyway, Dr. Stokes, great guy. He's a cool dude. And he's like, man, you're 23, 24 years old. I just don't see why we would fuse 2 levels and just take you out of competition for sure. So let's fix the one and, take some time off, do things right, do whatever Sean tells you. Hopefully we'll be able to manage it right. And so we were able to after that. I was out for pretty much a full year, come back, made the NFR again in 2014, had my best finals ever and at the time, and life was good. And then in 2015, it flared up again and sat out that whole season. And then from then on, like it was something changed in me even more. Like I just knew I had to make everything count so much more because I just felt like to get to ride after 2015 was just such a blessing that I was just like, I can't squander this opportunity. And so I rocked along there, come back, made the finals again, and everything was going pretty good. And then I met my wife, we got married, and she's just been like so instrumental in this last part of my career. Like she's just mentally, she just helps me stay in such a good place. And cool. She's an athlete herself, and she's got a lot of background in physical fitness training, stuff like that. And so just between her and Sean, like the last 5 years of my career have been the best for me. And it's been so fun. I got pretty close, in 2018. I think I ended up like third or something. Yeah. And just once you taste that, once you realize you're capable of that, it changes things for you. And just so thankful to have had the last 5 years of my career and hopefully a few more.
Yeah, definitely. So right now you're sitting out this year, aren't you?
Yeah. Okay. After the NFR, I came home and just things weren't right when I got in the gym. And truth be known, I felt it kind of coming all last year. And by the end of the NFR, I was feeling some weakness, but it's just like, I'm 35 years old. I kind of, was just hoping to kind of ignore the check engine light and just get through these next couple of years and ride off into the sunset. And then, and I realized, I wasn't going to be able to do that. And so we pulled back, did some MRIs, noticed that the disc was a lot worse than what we thought it was. And time and just, rehab is about the only thing that's going to help it. And so I go down to Mexico, I get stem cell treatment, some different stuff. And I'm in the process of doing all that. And everything's working great. Like I've been back in the gym for 2 months and everything's coming back together the way we kind of hope it would. And so looking at, returning into this year, beginning of next year, and making a run at it healthy next year.
Heck yeah, man. Well, we definitely will be rooting for you. But, that's kind of the injury history and kind of where you've been and stuff. And as we talked about, 9-time NFR qualifier, and you've had some success there, reached in that top 5 several times. Let's just talk about some of your successes and some things like that. I saw, what's in your mind, to you personally, what's your biggest win?
It's just funny. My wife and I were just kind of having some drinks talking about this stuff last night, and for different reasons. Like my biggest win at the biggest rodeo, where it's the biggest paycheck, is I've won the American twice in Arlington. Yep. And anytime where, to me, it feels like the biggest win is on a stage like that or the NFR, where you get it down to the top guys, the top horses, and it's just like you're going toe-to-toe right there. And so, to me, short of winning the national finals or winning a world championship, a rodeo like the American, where it's just, progressively the field goes down and the horses get better, and just that to me feels like a pretty big win. And then, I had a year at the NFR there where I was just having fun riding bucking horses, and looked up and was third in the average, and I didn't even realize it at the time, but a few things go my way and I win a world championship, and so that was fun for me. There's been other, wins that seem important for other reasons, but to me, anytime you get to go on that stage against the very best guys and the very best stock, that's the ones that matter the most to me.
Definitely. What's your favorite horse to get on, if you have one?
I would say this one right here, Gunfire is my favorite, probably. Virgil's been really good to me. We didn't get along, didn't get the whistle at the NFR last year, but that was one time out of 6. So he's been really good to me. And then that Mare Gunfire Frontier Rodeo Company owns her, and she's just like a bareback rider's dream. Like, bucks hard enough that she could throw you out of the arena if you mess up, but just gets in the air and gives you every chance to do what you love. And that's the horse I've won the American Own the 2 years in a row, and just she's been really good to my family. I'd be kind of sorry if I didn't say that was my favorite one.
That's cool, man. So you talked a little bit about growing up in Carthage. You grew up around bucking stock, like bucking bulls, and then the PBR and all the legends and so the history that's there. One thing that I'm very curious about and I like to talk about is kind of the future of the sports, because you've even kind of alluded to the evolution of like the way it was versus the way it is now. And I see like what the PBR is doing with teams, and what there's even the extreme bronc events now and different things like that. Where do you see the sport going for bronc riding for barebacks?
I think the PBR, as far as a standalone event with the bull riding, they set the bar, right? Like, I mean, what they're doing and what they've done in the past is so impressive. And the team deal is so funny. Like, when I heard about it, I'm like, that's dumb. It doesn't make any sense, right? It's silly. It seems cool, whatever. And then last January or sometime, I was on a photo shoot for Boot Barn with Ross Coleman, and he was at that time he was picking the team. He was the
coach of the Missouri.
He was the coach of the World Cup or the Global Cup or whatever. I'm not sure what they call it. But and he was picking that team, and he was just kind of like asking me about some of the rodeo guys that he didn't know, and like I just felt like once I started thinking about it like that, like, and just kind of saw that process behind the scenes, and then like. A guy, I'm 35 years old, and like you said, I'm one of the older guys, and to see an avenue for a guy like Ross to go on and become a coach, and like it sparked my interest. And so then he started telling me about the team thing, and then so I started. I think it's super cool. And then just like last week, 2 weeks ago, Sage Kimsey and I were doing a little rodeo camp here for Choctaw at the headquarters of their reservation, and it is so beautiful out there. But anyway, Sage I was talking to him. He had declared for the draft and got drafted by Carolina. I mean, it just would be so cool, like in my position right now, to be on a team and getting a guaranteed paycheck. And I don't know if that's the future. I do think it's cool though. I think for the horse riding, the future, it's unfolding in front of us right now. Like these standalone events, these standalone bronc ridings, like the one they had in Alaska, the one that's happening in Darby, Montana right now for the bareback riding, 50,000 added, bareback riding. It's cool, and it's an exciting show. Like it really is. And I think it's a market deal, right? Like I think some places they love bucking horses, and some places they love bucking bulls. And I think, I feel like watching in my career, like I think the sport of, and I'm a huge rodeo fan. I like it as a whole. Like that's what caught my attention, and I think there's a place for that. I don't think that needs to go away. I think that's the premier thing. But I think in certain markets where where it works to showcase one event or the other, and the fact that the association is allowing that now, it is a big thing. And I think it's making a lot of guys, a lot of money, and it's a fun opportunity to go somewhere. And it's like I was saying earlier, like when you go to those standalone events and the bareback ridings that we have, like the stock is screened so thoroughly that when you get there, you're getting on a good one. You know what I mean? And these stock contractors have done a really great job in my career too of improving the quality of livestock. Like it's not just the cowboys, it's not just the rodeos that have continued to get better. Like, in 2007, when I first started, there might have been 2 horses around like Gunfire. And I mean, she's definitely tip of the top, but there's, you go a step down from her and, whatever, there's just so many great horses out there right now. And then to take it back even farther, you got like, Louis Field, Casey's dad's telling us, he's like, those horses y'all get on every weekend, we might get on one of them a year. It's like, it's just gotten so much better. And, for the horse riding, it's going to continue to have to get better to get more of them to be able to support those standalone events. But it's happening, and it's cool to see.
That is cool. So the opportunity's definitely there, right? Like the stock and the numbers and all that.
I think so. I was pretty fortunate to be involved in the beginning stages of this event that's going on in Darby right now, and the only thing that I think is just holds the horse riding deal back a little bit on these standalone events is the breeding thing in the horses, and it takes longer, right? When you like, you can't buck a horse until they're 4 or 5 years old, and then a bull you can buck them at yearlings and 2-year-olds, so you kind of see what you got, right? And the horse deal is catching up, but I mean, we could step off the little balcony of this hotel and throw a rock and probably hit a pretty good bucking bull around here somewhere, and it's just the horses aren't as, it's just it's not as deep, and it's happening, and these guys are putting a lot of effort into it, and they're doing a great job. But to support many more of these standalone bareback ridings, it takes to put on the event in Darby, it takes like 53 horses, right? And so to get 53 even across the board, like that guys can win on, it's kind of tough sometimes. And if you wanted to do that every weekend, it'd be really tough, because these guys are also going around putting on rodeos where they have to buck these horses and where they need to buck these horses. And so I think it's happening, but I think for there to be more of them, the livestock side of it's going to have to catch up a little bit.
Yeah, but you definitely think that that's a possibility.
100%. Right? Like, it's happening. Like, I mean, we're watching it happen, and I think 5 years from now, it's going to be a pretty common thing. And I mean, as far as the team concept, I think that's so cool, because I think that's what people are normally, they're used to rooting for a whole team versus just an individual guy. And, most of us are all really good friends. Like, I'm looking at this picture here, and you can see a couple bronc riders screaming on the back of the shoe. Like, it'd be cool to be in a competition with a team of guys. Like, I like the concept of it, and I don't know how it fits with rodeo, but it'd be cool to see.
Yeah. So we had Justin Falisco on a long time ago, and I always reference that podcast because we talked a lot about the teams, because he was covering the PBR for quite a while. But, one of the things that he told me that was kind of eye-opening and reminded me is, like, the common average person is used to being able to just look at the TV and see it's like Texas versus Oklahoma and an overall number versus an overall number, and who's winning,
right?
And so, and a lot of people, with bull rides, you can watch them, and some people know, like, hey, they can watch a ride and say that's an 86 or that's a 90. And then I feel like with the horse stuff, people are probably not near as privy to be able to point out, hey, it
just hasn't been on TV as much as the bull ride.
Exactly. Right? And so eventually I think that would be really cool to kind of see that happen.
I do too. And I like some people might say I'm only saying this because I'm old, but I like the idea of guys that have had success in their sport having an avenue after competition to go into coaching and mentoring these guys, because when we were talking just a minute ago about what the trajectory of my career and what how things kind of unfolded, like meeting Sean and getting Sean in my life was me getting a coach, right? And in all the other rough stock events, you don't have that. And those, like Lane Johnson that was just in here, he's been coached by someone his entire life, and it's a good thing to have someone to call you on your bullshit, to help you. Like, Sean's not an NFR bareback rider even, but he knows a lot. He knows a lot about the human body and just how it works, and like, from an injury standpoint, he's been able to keep me fairly injury free basically since we started working together, and in good shape, and able to take the abuse of riding bucking horses. But mentally, it's been so much more for me too, because to me, like, once you start working with someone and they're putting time into what you're doing, I feel accountable towards that person, right? And so on days where I maybe just mentally I'm not feeling it, not wanting to show up, I'm like, well, Sean spent hours of his week programming these workouts for me. Like, I mean, it's a different feeling. And then you have someone outside your competition to call, and you just talk through things. Like, and that's one thing Sean's great at. Like, I mean, he's never rode a bareback horse, but he knows the questions to ask me to shine it to where I answer my own questions, essentially, and I credit, a large portion of the success I've had in my career to that moment of taking on a coach. And I think that it's not common right now, and I don't know the steps forward, but I know if I was a young guy and I could go back and start on day one with someone, like Sean or like a Ross Coleman, who's a voice in that locker room that has done all the things that those guys are trying to do, and it's interesting to me, and I would be interested in the opportunity if it ever presented itself, and it's kind of a cool concept. Rodeo is a loner, solo sport, but it's kind of one of those things, like maybe it has been up until now, but maybe it doesn't have to be moving forward, or maybe, that's the next evolution of what we're doing. Who knows? But
no, that's a great point.
I credit a lot of my success to that moment. So, I mean, I just, like I said, if I could go back and do it all over again, I'd start at day one with somebody like that.
Yeah, that's a great point, because even you look at some of the top guys, legacy, right? Like the Wrights. They look, they have Cody. They have plenty of people that they can rely on and be mentored by. Rocker, and and his family and different.
Well, Casey,
things. So,
and that's who I relate the most to, just because we've traveled together for 16 years, so I got a front row seat to that deal, and it just and Casey's dad was very free with the knowledge and information that he passed on, but the special relationship that him and Casey had, and this, I've got great parents, but my dad had never ridden in the short round at Salinas, or drew a crappy horse in Cheyenne, or done, Louis had lived those moments and lived them with success, and like I said, succeeded in those moments. And so, and on another note, like, I know that it was a big deal for Casey to have him in his ear and have him in his corner, because and it was hard to watch at the time, and if he was here, he would talk about it too. But when Louis passed, there was a year or two period there where Casey Field's still better than most everyone else out there, but he wasn't the same guy for after losing his corner man for those next year or two. And it's just so it works. And then you see the success that the Wright family's having, right? Like, I don't know what kind of Kool-Aid they drink over there, but it's amazing, and I know Cody Wright. He rodeoed most of the first part of my career. He's a great guy. They're a great family, and I think that people that are able to win, just there's an attitude, and there's a way of just approaching every situation in your life, and just an outlook that once you take it on, it goes into everything you do, and it just becomes a habit. And a guy like Stetson Wright's never seen anything different. Like, to me, I say this a lot, but watching the Wright family and getting to see this happen in real time, like, is one of the highlights of my rodeo career, because I started as a rodeo fan, and I still am, and I don't know that we'll ever see this again, and like, I see Stetson winning and doing all these great things, and I literally have been seeing him since he was probably 9, 10 years old. Like, I've seen him at the Calgary Stampede and the steer riding, you're just a little skinny kid running around. And so you get to see these kids grow up and then go on to do what they're doing. It's so fun.
It is. Yes. We're big fans of Stetson. He's a good dude.
Still a really skinny kid.
still really skinny. We talked about advances in the sport. I think one of the things that comes along with that is the perception and the reality of y'all being athletes. And I know that one of the big deals that comes with that is, sponsorships and people and companies growing and evolving with you. And I know you're a Choctaw athlete. You talked about how you and Sage put on that camp and stuff like that. Talk a little bit about Choctaw and what that sponsorship has meant to you.
Man, it's been so cool, because we connected through a guy that was at the PRCA for a while named Paul Woody, and he put me in contact with Erica, and we were able to form this relationship. And will admit, I didn't have a lot of knowledge of all the history of the Choctaw tribe, and just I didn't really know what they did up here. And then since being a part of their brand and coming up here and going to their main office and seeing meeting the chief, meeting Gary, and going and doing these camps. And it's been so cool to see all the history, and then to see the outreach that they have within their community and within their tribe. And man, it's so cool to be a part of a brand that does so many great things for so many people within their tribe and within their community. And that camp the other day was so fun, and it was pretty light duty stuff. Sterling Crawley and I pulled a little bucking machine around with a gator about 4,000 laps, and kids rode it and laughing and having a big time. But you look at some of them and you're just like, man, that guy kind of has a little bit, you could see it happening for this person.
Kid might have something there.
And then you have, Gary walks up and he's like, man, do you see anyone that's like, just like they want to invest in they want to, help rodeo go in their tribe and in their community. And it's fun, man. It's cool to be a part of what they're doing. And I'm very thankful for the opportunity.
That's great, man. One of the things I've been impressed with just since we talked is just kind of your overall mindset, mentality. You talked about how you attack injuries, and if you're told to do something, you just do it. What are your future goals and plans? And then just from the mental side, pushing through a year like this year where you're having to kind of sit on the sidelines, how does that play into your future goals? I'll be honest, this year's been kind of a test. You have adversity, and I've had plenty of it in my career. I've been pretty blessed. I like to not just have injury on top of injury on top of injury, but I've been dealing with the same injury for my entire career pretty much. And it's taken me out for, a year one time, just doing exactly what I'm doing right now. And then I was out for another year whenever I actually had the surgery. And, at that time, you're 24 years old, so you still see such a big window of opportunity, right? And you're also single and no kids. And if you don't work for a year, it's not a big deal, right? You're just kind of bouncing around, hanging in Stephenville or Fort Worth, and having a good time, working out and getting ready to come back. And this winter when it happened, it was mentally, it was harder on me than I expected. I thought I was more prepared for it than what I was. But, to look at taking a full season off and having 3 kids at home, and it's just like you can't really just go get a job. There's a lot of opportunities out there, but if I don't keep rodeo my number one focus, when I come back, I'm not going to be able to beat these kids like, the Rockers, the Keenan Hayeses, the Dean Thompsons, not to mention the Casey Field that's still going, the Colorado, like the guys are so good. And I know from being in their shoes when it's the only thing you're thinking about and the only thing you're working towards, you're a dangerous man, And so when you start spreading that focus outside of that, like to me, I feel like I could probably, spread my focus around a little bit and probably make the finals and be in the top 15 or whatever. But that's not why I still do this, right? Yeah. Like, so if I can't go and be competitive for a world championship, this isn't what I want to do. It is. I love it. Like, you see all the old boys and they never lose that look in their eye. Like, this is what they'd rather be doing right now. But, mentally, I try to take the same approach to injuries, to just any kind of adversity, right? Like God brings you to it. He can bring you through it. And, I have a blind trust in that. And, at the end of the day, I have a great support system in my wife, when it came time to talk about, being out for the season and then coming back and rodeo next year. Because I think in my position, probably the smart bet would be to just, tip your hat and be done with it at this point. But it just, in my heart, that's not what it feels like I should be doing. And so, she's a gamer. She's like, hell yeah, this is what we're supposed to be doing. Let's get it on, and luckily through endorsements with companies like Choctaw Casino and Crown Royal and Boot Barn and American Hat and the companies I'm associated with, these endorsement deals are a big deal for us on a good year, but on a year like this is what makes it to where I can put the time in to come back and be competitive next year. Financially, I'm able to kind of back off and maybe not go to all those rodeos and focus on what I need to do. But also I'm kind of a busy guy, so through my relationship with Susan Maddox at American Hats, she's introduced me to a family friend of theirs, and he's had a lot of success in the oil and gas business, and we're in the process of actually starting a drone solutions company, basically like be inspecting for methane gas, doing 3D mapping and surveying, and it's really nothing I ever imagined myself doing, but when the opportunity presented itself, I knew it to me seems like a great opportunity, and just to have the opportunity to learn from someone like Marshall and just see how business is done. Because come back next year, win a world championship, whatever,
either way you look at it, and there's no way of cutting my age out of this. Father Time's undefeated. So like the end of this deal is closer than the beginning was. So I need to me, I want to start building something for after rodeo, and that when the opportunity presented itself, the timing of it was perfect. I was pretty down in the dumps over, being out from rodeo. And then, I'll say that about this whole year, right? Like it's been kind of tough, but also the timing of it's been perfect. I look around every day and I know that I'm right where God wants me at right now. I mean, like you mentioned at the front of this deal, I've got 2-month-old twins at the house, a 2-year-old little boy. My wife would and could take care of them by herself, but that doesn't necessarily mean she should have to. So me being able to be there right now and be a part of it, I'm so thankful and excited for next year to get everybody out there on the road and kind of show them the rodeo deal.
For sure, man. I appreciate you sharing that with us. I can tell that that's obviously something that means a lot. And that's cool. I mean, one of the things that I love about getting to do these and talk to these guys is like, you can just tell their passion. You alluded to Lane Johnson, whether it's him sitting there across from me talking about football, but also how he's a fan of the sport of rodeo and how excited he is to go to the rodeo tonight, or a bull rider, or somebody just sitting across from me telling me that doesn't matter what injury they have, they just want to get on. I can see that you obviously have a passion for it, and that's so awesome, dude. And I appreciate you sharing that with us.
It's addicting. It's like a drug. That's what I realized this time of being out. Like there's just nothing in the world that really gives you that feeling, like just snapping a bad one and then stepping off, throwing your hands up in the air. It's like, that's what I told my wife the other day. I was like, I don't know the amount of money I would give to be able to just step off one and feel like a badass for 5 seconds, but like I feel like I'm fiending for it right now.
Yeah. Man, again, thank you for sharing that with us and kind of being vulnerable, sharing that stuff. That's awesome. But we're going to jump in. We got a couple fan questions that we want to jump into and kind of lighten it up a little bit. Luis Perez says, what advice can you give to a high school kid that's trying to rodeo for a living?
I think to be really, really successful at anything, you gotta go all in. You know what I mean? Like you gotta give it everything you got, and that looks different for everyone. You know what I mean? But what I know about bareback riding is this: like I wasn't very good when I started. I wasn't very good for the first 3 to 4 years of what I was doing, but I put the work in. Mentally, it's weird to think about now, but I never doubted that I was going to be in the position that I'm in right now. But I also don't know where that confidence came from, right? But do the work, learn to enjoy the process, and go all in. Like, in whatever you're doing, because I think that's what, to me, looking around, just seeing different people and different things. Like, if you go all in on something and you're not successful, and you get done, you give it everything you got, you walk out of there, your chin's still up, and you can know you did everything you could. But I think a lot of people live a life where they never truly understand what it is like to just push all your chips out to the middle of the table and go all in. And so if you're going to do it, mean it, and put in the work, and it'll give back to you what you put into it. And that's, I'm living proof of that.
That's cool. Cecily asks, if you had one horse to ride for a world title, who would it be?
Gunfire.
That's what I figured. I know we kind of talked about that, but I thought I'd ask.
Which is kind of like there's horses that they win more on at the NFR than that horse too. So like from a strategic standpoint, I could maybe pick a different one or something like that. But just as far as comfort level and just Old Faithful, that would be pretty cool for me.
Heck yeah. All right. Gene asks, if you could have a walk-up song. And you may. Do they play a certain song for you out of the buck and shoots?
They have been the last few years. I really like it's a old Beatles song, but the "Come Together." I like the Gary Clark version of it, where he's just ripping on the guitar.
Heck yeah!
And I think they've been playing that the last few years, so that's been cool.
When they do that, how does that work? Do you tell them? Because I know, like, for example, at the Rangers games or whatever, like they pick their walk-up music and they tell Chuck Morgan what to play. But how does
I
that
think
work
honestly, more so random in what we do. I guess you could seek those guys out and tell them, and I think they would do it. But just after 16 years of doing this, I know most of the guys up there pushing the buttons, and I don't know. I feel like Josh Hilton Hambone. I feel like he's the one that pointed that song out to me, and maybe he's the one that started playing it. But then I've probably mentioned it to like Benji Benlin, the guy that does the NFR stuff, and more just kind of word of mouth, get it out there.
Yeah.
I guess. I don't know.
Paula asks, would you encourage either of your sons to rodeo? And if so, what events?
I would. I really feel like rodeo has changed in a positive way the trajectory of my whole life, and just kind of back to what I said, like in rodeo, just it's commonplace to see people going for it and going all in on everything. That's the norm. Like that's just, you see a family of 4 packed into a Capri camper and a Dodge truck, and they got 2 dogs in there. And they're going for it. Like, yeah. I mean, that they're going all in on their dreams.
There ain't no back out there.
No, there ain't, And so, and too, just the people and the friendships I've made and the life I've got to live. It's been such a blessing. And, I never really thought about it till I had kids. And, I never honestly thought I was going to have kids, and now I have a lot of kids, and I'm super thankful for it. And so it's definitely something we talk about. I think ideally, for us, what we talked about, what we joke about, I guess we want them to do whatever they want to do. But if we had one that was really, really good, and we could go around all the rodeos and watch our kid kick everybody's ass, like kind of do a Rocker Schneider type deal right now, that would be pretty fun. I'd love to have one that was a professional golfer. That way we could really just kind of go ahead and support the family, fly around on net jets, and
there you go,
talk shit to everybody about how good my kid is. That would be nice. And then, I don't know. Well, we're excited. Our oldest is about to maybe start playing soccer next year, so I'm ready to get into all that. It's a exciting thing, but I definitely hope one of them, or all of them, has something to do with rodeo.
That's cool. This is actually from one of our friends, Kelly. She said, "What is your hair care routine and your favorite products?"
Well, it's a pretty common question, which is nothing I ever really planned on. I grew my hair out a long time ago because I thought the Larry Mahans and Donnie Gays and Hawkeye Hensons and Bobby Browns back in the day were pretty cool, and still do. But it was never. I never knew it was going to take on a life of its own, and around 2020 it kind of did, and but. It's pretty simple, just whatever my wife has in the shower is pretty much whatever I wash my hair with. It's I don't get too crazy on that deal.
I saw that Cowboys and Indians picture of that from that magazine with your hair just like flying back. And I know when we were in Cheyenne filming for the documentary, we shot some footage of you bucking. I guess this was 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. But anyway, just that iconic, the hair flowing with the purple shirt and all that.
Yeah, that deal, Steve Rubles, that's a piece of art he put together, and I guess according to him, I might be misspeaking, I might be overselling a little bit, but I think that's the most sold copy of all those prints that he's done. And he was actually he donated one of those the other day to a benefit for a friend of mine that was in an accident a few months ago. And Steve, he's a great guy.
That's cool. All right, and then our last submission comes from one of our youngest fans. Her name is Salem, and she says, "I don't have any questions. Good job."
Awesome. Love it, Salem. Thank you.
So, anyway, man, I really have enjoyed this. Is there anything else that you would like to say to your fans or just fans of the sport in general?
Thank you. Thanks for cheering when we ride. It's why we do it, and it's been cool to get to see the evolution of rodeo, and it's exciting to see where it's headed to from here. And I mean, if you've seen a rodeo and you've met the cowboys and kind of hear some of the backstories and stuff, and you can't become a fan of this sport, then something's wrong with you. It's American Pie. It's the whole deal. It's fun. Rodeo's a big deal, and it's cool that there's people out there that love it as much as I do. Thank you for that.
Yeah, very cool, man. And thank y'all so much for listening. If y'all wouldn't mind, we'd love to hear your feedback. And if you're enjoying what you hear on this podcast, please make sure and comment or give a 5-star review wherever you find your comments. Tilden, man, we really appreciate it, and thank you so much for being here. We also want to take a moment to thank our presenting sponsor, Lane Frost Brand, for sponsoring these podcasts for 2023. Without their support, we couldn't do what we love doing here for y'all. Make sure and go to lanefrost.com for merch and all things Lane Frost, along with all of their social media on major platforms. And remember, use the code TDT15 to save 15% on your orders. And again, thank you so much to Choctaw Casinos and Resorts for hosting us and for sponsoring Tilden. Tilden, what are your social media handles, and where can people follow along with what all you have going on?
I'm on Facebook with just Tilden Hooper, but I'll admit I don't post a lot on there. My Instagram's kind of where I put out all the content that I put out, and I think my handle on there is Mr. Hooper. The second O is a 0. It's real creative. Anyway, that's where I'm going to be putting most of my stuff on. So. Follow along. It's fun. Social media is a interesting, cool place, and it's nice to get to connect with people.
Definitely, man. And also follow along with us on social media at Tough Draw and at Tough Draw Talks for more episodes of our podcast as we continue to bring y'all closer to the rodeo community. Until next time, everyone, enjoy the ride.